A parent's nightmare and a child's fear, a gunman walking into their school and opening fire, killing several and injuring others. How communities are wrestling with the struggle to protect our kids and why lawmakers seem to not be able to agree on gun control. And the Metro Council approved it, but will Nashville residents vote in favor of it? Mayor Megan Barry's $5.4 billion transit plan makes its way through Metro Council and will hit ballots in May. Now, if it promises to fix traffic trouble in the city, why are so many against it? And Mayor under fire after admitting to an affair with the head of her security detail. Mayor Megan Barry is trying to bounce back and win the public's favor. But with 4 investigations underway and a amount of scrutiny, can she redeem herself? We're digging into all of that on today's Pumps and Politics. Hello and welcome to this week's Pumps and Politics. We always love it when you join us for some tremendous discussion. Well, we've had a week full of headlines. We're taking all of them head on today's Pumps and Politics, and I can't do it by myself. I've got some wonderful ladies here with me. They've joined me again today. They've had some mercy on me. I guess they love the pain. I don't know. But, you know, these ladies are opinionated. We're about to dig right down into the topics. Let me reintroduce you to them or introduce you to them for the first time. First up, we've got Lainey. She is a publicist by day and very active in the community by day and night. We also have Janine. She is a fundraising and event planning professional, including political fundraising, and is also very active in the Nashville community. Over to my right is Melissa Smithson. She is chair of the Davidson County Republican Party and was county co-chair of President Trump's campaign team. And last but not least, we have Scotty Nell Hughes, a well-known political analyst, campaign strategist, and longtime supporter of President Trump. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining me. I know you all have been watching these headlines move. I've been watching them, covering them. We're about to take it to a place where not a lot of people can. We're going to lay these topics out and take them on. First up, we're going to talk about a very serious one. We're talking about the shooting in Florida, the school shooting. That is where 17 people were counted dead there. We know that there were 2 adults killed, and we have some teens that died. That was at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Now, police say that the gunman, a 19-year-old, opened fire on the students, took off his shirt, dropped his backpack, and blended in with other students to escape. Got away for a little bit, not for long. Now, many parents and kids, as we've seen this week, ladies, are frustrated. We've seen some lawmakers frustrated. Everyone really is looking like, what do we do? How can we fix it? Let me toss this out to you. Is fixing the laws around gun control, is that the way we go about solving this issue? Is it a gun control issue?
Well, I think that what we've seen in past history, this is a horrible tragedy that happened, but we've learned that evil is going to find a way to do evil, whether you're talking about using a bomb, a knife, or any other type of weapon. In this case, once again, another tragedy happened with a gun. And usually it is always the bad guys that have the guns and the good guys do not. This is another example of a mass shooting happening in a gun-free zone. It is time that we take the politics out of it and actually get a solution to save lives. For me, I do believe that our schools are sitting ducks right now. Our children are in our schools. Williamson County is canceling school on Monday to look at their safety assessment. Sumner County superintendent sent down a letter to all parents in Sumner County saying we are looking at it. I imagine that's happening in every county. We need to actually look at a real way. And at this point in time, it's time that we put the good people to be able to arm themselves and protect our children, while either we pay for armed security guards in every single school or we allow teachers to go through the training to be able to carry guns themselves.
It's interesting that you say that. I'm a little curious. I mean, yes, we have to protect the kids. There are schools that don't even have textbooks. Where is this extra money coming from? The sale of guns?
Oh,
where's it coming from?
Magically, we have money right now to be bringing in a soccer team. We have money to be going for a transport.
I'm talking about nationally.
Let's put the priorities on it. I think if we united, if both parties united and said, you know what, let's find the funding, we would find the funding, because every child is worth it. Don't put a price on a child's head.
It's not about a price on a child's head, but you've got children in school who don't have food. You've got children in school who don't have textbooks. You've got teachers who are providing all of this stuff. Teachers who are having to provide papers, pencils, everything else. Now you want them to provide a Glock, a license, bullets, and training. Where does that money come
There
from?
are too many parents right now that are
Now,
burying
what
their
happens
children
when the teacher
today.
gets the Glock and the person comes in and they're shooting and the teacher accidentally shoots a student?
Well, let's
when they're
deal with
trying
that
to
issue.
aim at.
At this point, we need to protect our children first, and it's not happening. Whatever
But
solutions
that
on the
conversation,
table
I think,
is not happening.
I think that's just like an immediate jump and a reaction to a situation where it's not well thought out. Let's everybody get guns and then everybody will shoot everybody and we'll all be dead.
Not a single NRA member has killed somebody yet in one of these mass shootings. That the good people are the ones that are having the guns taken away from them, or fear of that. It's the bad ones that magically, and usually they're all illegal guns that these people are using.
However,
his
but
gun
then
was
there's
not
the
illegal.
issue, but there's also the issue of mental health. And so one of the things that I'm concerned about is the fact that the law right now is not taking the guns away from people who have diagnosed mental health issues. He did. The FBI was even warned about him. And so for the fact that he, with a mental health issue, was still allowed to purchase a gun, that's what I have an issue
Well, Trump
with.
just made it
That's
easier
true.
to buy guns with mental health issues. That was one of the big things that he did last year.
Yeah, we look at it on state level. We've got to look at this. Mental health is not addressed here in our jails.
It's not.
Locally or nationally. We've got people that go in the system, they're jailed for whatever, and we know they have mental issues, but they're not getting the services. We've got to completely revamp
And
this.
that's what I think needs to happen is you also can teach teachers and school staff how to be safe in the school and to use even tactics that don't include guns. But first you need to address the mental health issues, because in a lot of these cases that's what it boils down to, is these individuals have had some serious mental health issues that have not been
And
addressed.
we all agree responsible gun ownership.
Absolutely.
Whether that's training, and knowing that there's services out there for those that are mentally ill. Don't give them if they have one issue. Do psychological backgrounds, especially these
Right.
people that are buying these ARs.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. I have a handgun, I have a shotgun, I used to skeet shoot, but however, I do not need an AK.
Right.
Well, you can buy in Florida, you can buy an AK-15, an AR-15 or whatever it was that he used at the age of 18. You can't even drink. You can't buy a handgun at the age of 18. You don't need a background check. You can go and just buy one. There was a lawmaker here in Tennessee who had a lemonade stand. He put the lemonade stand out and the AR-15 and said, it's as easy to sell lemonade as it is to sell an AR-15 right here in the middle of Tennessee.
You still have to get a background check here in Tennessee in order to get a gun.
He had clear mental issues, got the background checks, still has one. 17 kids are dead, 14 are in the hospital.
The FBI was warned, and the local police were warned, and the
What
police were warned.
happened?
Exactly. There was a breakdown
Where's the
across
breakdown?
board. It's
So
not
whose
just.
responsibility is it here? Is it the school's responsibility to do more for security? Is it the lawmaker's responsibility to tighten guns? Where does the
I think it's the
responsibility fall?
lawmaker's responsibility
Or
first.
parents' responsibility, right? Because
Well,
some of the kids have access to guns from their home.
Well, I
right?
had access to a gun. My father was a hunter, so I had access to a gun, but you as a parent are teaching your children how and when to use a gun. I don't mind people having guns responsibly, but at the same time, when you are also dealing with mental health issues, you don't need to be around a gun.
Well, the breakdown with
whatsoever.
him was complete because his mother was dead. He was staying with people. They allowed him to bring this gun into their home.
Absolutely.
Allegedly, the gun was locked up, but apparently it was not locked up well enough, because if you lock it up and you give the person with mental issues or whatever, or, and I think there also needs to be a line that's cut between mental issues and angry issues. Anger issues, because women get mad all the time, and we have a lot of anger issues, and none of these school
Why?
shooters and shootings, mass shootings and mass killings are women.
Are women.
9 times out of 10, it's actually white males. So we also have to address white male anger as well.
But Lainey, does that then kind of put us into stereotyping or profiling?
Oh, absolutely.
Because on the
It does.
opposite
Absolutely.
side, we have to look at the other side, because anyone can sit here and say, well, we have a lot of black males who are committing violent crimes, so profile them. And then you'll have a lot of advocacy groups who are speaking out against that. So
It's
is
being
that not
done-
toting?
It's
It's
being,
being
done,
done
anyway.
Well,
Yes.
so then there you go. We agree that profiling's a good thing then?
No,
No.
we're not agreeing.
Oh,
But
she just did it.
No. What
But
we're
you just
saying
said
is,
it's okay to profile white men, but not
but
to
what
profile
we're saying,
black men.
no,
That's the
what we're
problem
saying
with this.
is, if you were going to go that route of profiling, because clearly nobody's profiling white men, because in our society they can do no wrong, but they are doing
So
all
let's
of the
profile
wrong.
them
But we
both.
also don't
Let's-
know. We also don't know the ethnicity or the race of Nicholas Cruz. We can
Right.
make assumptions based off of his
Sure.
name, but we don't know.
He's an adopted child, so we don't know.
So, Lenny, I want you to bring up a poll that I did. So I put this out to folks on Twitter, because this seems like, is it everybody's responsibility? Is it no one's responsibility? Is it a singular responsibility? So I put up a poll on Twitter. And Lainey, I want you to.
Sure. So on your poll on Twitter, and you guys can go on and look for yourselves, but we're looking for the solution. Is it community leaders, parents, lawmakers? What's the solution? So 24% said we need tighter gun laws. 17% said we need prayer in schools. 18% said there's no answer, and 41% said there's a mental health response that is needed. So yes, there's a mental health
But
response.
I'm also concerned about the 18% to say no answer whatsoever.
Right.
That's
Perhaps
an issue
they're
for
frustrated. They've given up.
But-
they
but-
don't know. And some may feel like, kind of like what Scotty said in our interview, Joey Spann, he was the preacher in Antioch that was gunned down.
Yes.
He even said you can't legislate evil.
Right.
You
He said the
cannot.
answer is Christ, and he feels like those who have committed these acts of evil.
They
are
definitely
void of
needed
Christ
Jesus.
anyway.
They definitely need Jesus.
And they need
or whomever the
Exactly.
God is that they pray to.
At this point,
How about
we
we
just
just
need
go-
to have faith. Okay. But here's the problem with this, and this is where why people are probably frustrated, because they look at cities like Chicago, Washington, D.C., L.A. that have very strict gun laws, and they have some of the highest crimes committed by guns. Illegal guns are still getting in. It's kind of like drugs. Drugs are outlawed in our country, and yet drugs are definitely a problem we're having in our country. When you outlaw them, all that does is put the good people at odds against the bad people that somehow magically continue to be able to
Well,
do
I
their
think the
evil.
last two shootings that we had the shooting in Texas in the church, and we had this shooting, and I think both of those were legally bought guns.
Yes.
So I think we also have to talk about the legally purchased weapons they're using to go in to create mass destruction.
And both of those had a history.
Let
of
me
men.
jump in very quickly. As you all see that these ladies up here are very opinionated. I cannot wait until we get to the soapbox portion of this. We're going to take a little break here. Coming up, no doubt another topic that many people are divided on, surprisingly, in the city. We're going to talk transit. We're also going to talk the Mayor Berry affair and the apology tour. Is it working? Can it work? What will work? All of that and more. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Pumps and Politics. Mayor Megan Berry's transit plan is done with discussion and voting in the Metro Council. It has been approved to make it to the May ballot. That's when voters will decide if they agree on the tax increases necessary to fund the transit plan. That plan includes a light rail, improved bus improvements, and much more. Now, all this sounds like an amazing solution, but what we're finding is that there are a lot of people in the community who are not sold on this transit plan. So I want to send it out right here. Let's just lay this all out, ladies. What is the issue, whether you all feel that way or in relation to what it is that you're hearing? Why are some people opposed to this plan? And do you think it'll pass the May?
I think it goes back to even the conversation we had earlier that Lainey was saying, as far as money in the city, being used in other areas right now that have been without that funding for years. And now all of a sudden we have money for the soccer field. We now are having money for transit. But again, our schools are failing. Urban housing is failing. There are other things that our city needs. Yes, traffic is horrible, but to spend this amount of money, I think a lot of people are seeing it as a waste at the end of the day.
I think part of the problem is, moving here from New York City, I'm used to mass transit, being able to go, come, do whatever I want to without having to drive. I think part of the problem is, and one of the things that I noticed when I moved to Nashville gets bogged down and they can't see the forest for the trees. And the reason why our streets and our infrastructure is the way it is because nobody had the forethought to say, you know what, 25 years ago, we need to start building and improving. And I feel like, yes, it is a huge number and it's almost like unfathomable, $5 billion, but $5 million towards the future makes sense because yes, we are the it city. We have jobs. We don't have jobs that pay people to live in this city.
Absolutely.
So everybody is scattering.
Is a whole nother issue.
Right. Where everybody is scattering to the suburbs. But if you have low income people who are moving to the suburbs or mid income people who are moving to the suburbs and they have either no car or one car, how are they going to get in and be the staff that all of these jobs who are not paying these big, enormous salaries to spend? There was an apartment, I think, the other day. It was 600 square feet for $300,000. And I was like, one bedroom, barely. So where you need mass transit so you can get the workers in, you need teachers to come in, police officers to come in, firemen to come in, That's what we need.
But I respect the build it and the jobs will come theory. I love that idea of economic community development. But you look around the country and there are no successful metro transit systems anywhere. New York might be the best, but even they are having problems. None of these transit systems that these cities have pulled billions of dollars for, and it's never been the original price, by the way, that they sold the people in that city. It's usually been a lot higher than that. None of these are actually turning out to be cash positive. They're continued drains on the city's budget. So until you can find a way right now that you can show that this is actually going to be cash positive for the city, whether it is in jobs or other ways, New York's the only one, but Washington, D.C., LA, Atlanta, all of these have very failing transit systems right now.
Chicago has a positive one. LA actually does work, and it is.
But it's not cash positive. The city continues to drain on their budget, a budget that these cities don't have.
What
Which
about
goes back to
Denver?
the
Because
issue,
they
we've
looked
gotta
in,
fund it.
So what about Denver? Because they did look into Denver as
That
a
was
benchmark
one of their model
plan.
cities,
That's
yeah.
a model city. So I don't know if we have the numbers on that, but I'll definitely look up some information because I think, again, I agree we need it. I just don't think it needs to be at the current cost that it is when there needs to be money into other things that have been failing in our system.
And we're
already.
seeing new technologies applied. Up in Pennsylvania, they're doing the smart technology with the AI with the light system. How many times do we go down Owensville Road or down
And
Murphy
sit
Road
at a light
and we're
forever.
stopping
Yes.
at every light?
Yes.
There's intelligence out there. Let's use that.
And then there's also just kind of rerouting some of the routes, even for some routes on like 440 that you get on a ramp, but you can't get on safely. That makes no sense to me.
Part of the
Like
problem
adding-
also is with like the Metro Transit system, because I have children who take the Metro Transit system. And one of the biggest problems with the Metro Transit system is it wasn't well thought out, because wherever you are spread out in the county, you have to go down to the
Town.
bus depot
Right.
to get to the other person. So if you're going down Murfreesboro Road and you're trying to get to Brentwood, you've got to go all the way downtown
and then
to get
spread
another
back
bus
out.
to get
Yeah.
out to
Yeah,
Brentwood.
we
There
need-
is
that makes
no
no
Let
sense.
me,
cohesion.
let me jump in here real quick because speaking of something where everyone is divided and we're talking about some congestion and issues here, let's go into another topic. Mayor Megan Barry.
Oh, good.
Oh no, the shade. All right, so here's the thing.
Here we go
She
again.
admitted to an affair some weeks ago. It has been the topic of discussion now for several weeks. She can't put anything forward without, it being clouded by that. She's on social media talking about, we just cut the ribbon on this new affordable housing project, and everyone's like, yeah, that's great, resign. So she can't turn anywhere without, catching the criticism. And let me put something out there. Let's start with this point and walk back. She went on an apology tour. So was it the first Sunday after she announced her affair? I feel the steam coming from Lainey at this point. She went to two prominent, well-known African-American churches that are also planted in high-voting districts, particularly in the African-American community. Your thoughts on the African-American church apology tour, and across the board, will the apology work?
Why was it just an African American church apology tour?
Was her church closed that day?
right?
Well, she doesn't go to church. She's professed that she's an atheist.
Well, her husband did. I don't know if she did.
I don't think she did, but yeah, but I know she has a Catholic upbringing.
But
and we've talked
once
about
again,
it.
this is why
yeah.
people hate politicians. Just be genuine. If you mess up, admit it and move on. For her to sit here and try to continue to roll it, and people will see the ingenuity of this entire situation by that apology tour right there.
Is it like it got quiet all of a sudden, which Lainey, okay, see that's nice. Like when your mom would get real quiet and not say anything. That's scary.
The calm before the storm.
Yeah, I seriously do have. Yes, as a Christian, there are things, I'm not going to judge her on that. That's between her husband, and God, whomever they believe in. However, I do take issue with the fact that it was just African American church tour, because I feel like that's pimping an African American vote. You're the mayor of Nashville.
And I think that
you need to go on a tour of all churches, all faiths in the city.
Exactly.
Because everybody in Nashville is voting
I think
for
the
you.
other thing is that we noticed is that there are a couple of prominent African-American pastors who have come out against her, who were Team
Who were,
Barry.
right, they were Team Barry
and so I think
initially.
that this is where she's trying to circle her wagons, lick her wounds, and go out there and galvanize. And this is, I personally hate when politicians actually come into church to campaign because we don't
not a
see
fan of that
them.
either.
We don't see them 364 days the rest of the year, but here they come and they sit there, and then you watch them, they stand up, they wave, and they're out. And, you know, for some of these churches, it's 4 services, and they're pimping each service. And
Genuine.
you know what? It's not.
And a lot of
It's not
times when
genuine.
churches are holding meetings and trying to help solve community issues, again, like you said, these politicians are not there.
No, they're not showing
They're
up.
not there. They're not showing up until they want a community town hall meeting
Mm-hmm.
sponsored by the church. But 364 days, the church is already doing that work and they're not there.
Can I be devil's advocate? I can't believe I'm about to do this. What about if none of the white churches invited her in? Maybe did these churches, do we know, did they extend to her the invitation to come to their
We
church?
don't know what did.
And
happened?
maybe
That's a
I will be honest with you, we can be very judgmental as Christians. We can be very judgmental. Maybe she did not feel comfortable. I can see where that might be it as well.
I mean, I
think
know
before we
she's
hold
got
on
a
on
good
this-
relationship with both of the pastors of these 2 churches that she did.
She does.
You know, that she's been
But
to
she's
both
also
of these.
invited leaders of all faiths, like when she does her State of Metro, and they've been up there.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, she could have gone
You
to
know?
synagogues, she could have gone to mosques, she could have gone to a whole lot of other things, but these 2 churches happen to have a big presence, and they also have a big media presence.
Absolutely.
I just think she should focus inward and try to, with her church or whoever and her husband, it's just almost immediately, I'm back out in public. And that perception is, I just
I don't
don't
mind
think
her
it's
being in
last
public.
time.
I don't mind her being in public doing her job.
Right.
I don't want you to do the Trump thing and campaign after the campaign.
Well, speaking of campaign, there is something else that she may be using as part of her campaign to hopefully win some folks back. She has stepped down from plans to reduce inpatient care at Metro General. Well, we have with us in studio today the CEO of Metro General Hospital. In his words, his response to the mayor's plans and the future of the hospital. We'll have that coming up after the break. It's the hospital that has everyone's hearts. We're talking about Metro General Hospital. Well, we know recently Mayor Megan Barry announced plans to end inpatient care at the hospital, but then has since retracted that, put everything on hold as we look to evaluate everything and the future of the hospital. Well, we decided finally it is time to go to the source. Let us talk with the head of Metro General Hospital. We have him with us today. Dr. Webb, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Let's first talk about where the hospital is now. And, you know, Janine is here with us as part of this discussion. We were saying we're natives here of Nashville. This is a hospital that we all grew up with. You even mentioned, you know, going to TSU, and it's a place near dear to your heart. What is the current state of Metro General Hospital right now when it comes to finances, when it comes to viability and sustainability?
Okay, so if you were tuned in to the recent council meeting, you know that there had been a previous week's press conference that stated that we were going to receive a $13.2 million supplemental, and that was reversed at council, and they instead awarded the 17.1, which was closer to our original ask, which was 19.7 million. Now that was based on the even more original request and budget for 2018, which was a $55 million request to fund the hospital or to supplement the funding of the hospital. And we received 35 million, so naturally we would have wanted to receive the full additional 20. We ended up asking for 19.7, and we got 17.1, which puts us in a good position to be able to complete this fiscal year, 2018, which ends on June 30th, full operations of the hospital.
So where do we go once June 30th hits? What happens? What's the plan? Is Metro General in a position to sustain itself without the additional ask for the supplemental money?
Well, that's a question that gets asked a lot, and sustainability is a very relative term. You know, as an essential hospital, which is used synonymously with safety net hospital, we prefer essential hospital because it's more reflective of the work that we do. Self-sustaining, again, we would literally have to reduce the number of indigent or patients that can't afford to pay. 40% of our patients cannot afford their health care costs, and so they're not able to pay it. What business survives, with that kind of ratio of pay to no pay, other than, an essential hospital? And so when people make statements or comments about, how much money do you lose, or what does it take for you to make a profit? Literally, it would take us substantially reducing the number of individuals that don't have the ability to pay. And that's not the purpose of the hospital.
Yeah.
We have private hospitals in our city. We have for-profit hospitals in our city, which provide care to those who have funding. For those who don't, we have the essential hospital. But it requires that there be some supplemental funding, subsidies, to make sure that that service is available.
So, Dr. Webb, can you talk to us about where does that supplemental funding come from? How can the community help supporting that in efforts of fundraising or grants and things of that nature?
So a large portion of that the community is already doing, and it's called taxpayer dollars. So we generate $43 million a year in collections. I mean, we collect that money from paying patients there at the hospital. Another close to $20 million through state supplemental and federal dollars, disproportionate share, which puts us then, roughly around 60 million, and it requires an additional amount in order to fulfill the anywhere from $105 to $110 million operating budget, and that's where the subsidy from the city comes in. So we need that subsidy to be able to complete what we're doing. The $43 million is a result of our ability to care for inpatients and do all of the diagnostics and imaging ancillary services that we provide that are related to our inpatient structure, which would go away. So literally, the $43 million would be at risk if we didn't have the inpatient services that we offer.
Well, Dr. Webb, very quickly, I know, this is obviously something, that you're very passionate about. I mean, hey, you're in the head seat there.
For a lot of reasons.
A lot of reasons, right? Well, it's close to you. Again, you went to school here and grew up here, and, you're at the head, right? So
Yes.
very personal. Well, this is no doubt really kind of struck a chord with a lot of people in the community and even some of our council members. And we have Lainey Brown, who is over at our social media wall. Lainey, I know that you've been looking at some of the comments from some of our council members and from folks, just really kind of on social media. What are some of the other folks out there saying about the future and current status of Metro General?
Well, looking at some of the social media, we have a lot of comments. Frederick Talbot says, wonderful, this hospital is a health safety net for those most in need. Bravo to the council for sharing care and empathy. So that was, definitely a vote of confidence. Another person, Joseph Fry, said, saving the hospital is a good idea, but I get the distinct feeling that the outrage was planned in order to get around the objections to a budget-busting outlay. An oversight committee is the first step toward creating a board, and a board is how one removes elected officials and public oversight from matters the regime at local governments would prefer the peons to keep their noses out of. Off-budget enterprises are what these are called, and they do the opposite of what citizens are promised that they are for. So there's a lot of talk on social media about this.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Lainey. So Dr. Webb, let's bring it back to you. Because let's just be honest. Mayor Berry said, look, we're about to put a stop to it. We're about to end inpatient care. And as you mentioned, you all take those in the city that no one else really is taking and giving them treatment. Then she said, okay, hold on, pump the brakes. We're going to stop, pause it, revisit it. In the meantime, though, we're going to have to freeze, certain budgets. We're going to have to, pull back on overtime, blah, 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 so we can give them the money. There's almost a feel of Metro General is draining us. Everyone has to suffer. Now, I could be characterizing that wrong, but that's just kind of the feeling. To me, that's just kind of how it feels. How does it feel to you, Mayor Berry's decision on assisting Metro General and keeping his doors open?
So, first of all, the decision to eliminate inpatient services obviously was reversed. There was an apology issue for making that.
Let me ask you I'm sorry to interrupt. Was that apology okay for you? Was it enough for you?
You know, it's an acknowledgement that the decision was not the right decision or the best decision at the time. And I'm sure that goes far enough in saying that, you know, it's not what we really want to do. And we need to look at this closer. It also suggests that perhaps there wasn't enough information collected on the front end about, you know, anytime you reverse a decision, particularly if you're a leader, then when you reverse a decision, that means that you probably didn't have enough intel or intelligence on what the outcomes, potential outcomes might be. And so when you reverse it, you're going back saying, let me rethink this.
Yeah.
You can't do that too often because then it looks like you're making decisions without collecting good information. So any acknowledgement that it was not the right decision, I think, resonates in the community.
Okay.
It doesn't have to have particular terminology, or you don't have to shed tears or anything like that. Just the acknowledgement of it.
And you all are kind of seen as the drain. Again, I may be
Yeah.
mischaracterizing it, but right,
No,
Jenny?
that's kind of what I wanted to know is how do you feel about that? And again, it goes back to if that's the case, so what is next for Metro General?
Okay. Let me just say this. The United States is the only industrialized country where healthcare is not a right.
Right.
Okay. In this country, healthcare has been very commoditized. It is a product. It's like buying a car, a refrigerator, or anything else. You pay for it. So when there is a lack of ability to pay, we tend not to be quite as tolerant as a culture. You see that on the national level. I mean, this is not just in Nashville.
Yeah.
This is on the national level. You see that. What we have to come to grips with is, are we going to provide resources to care for that population who cannot access health care? And what that means to that population is, without access, there will be additional mortality, which is death, or morbidity, excessive illness. So we have to make a decision. You know, there's fire, there's police, there's education, and there's health care. Those are things that government should play a major role in making sure that,
Essentials.
yeah, those are essentials. And so when you look at healthcare and you attempt to remove healthcare from those items, then you're basically restricting access. And what happens? Health is our connection to life. Healthcare is our connection to health. Without healthcare, we don't have health, and without our health, then our lives are at risk.
And without health care, you don't have people who can get on this major mass transit unit to go into work because they're not healthy enough to come into work, or could even play soccer because they're not healthy enough. And when they break their legs,
Connecting all the loops.
Exactly. When they break their legs or have an issue and have to come to a place like Metro General, they can't do that because they can't afford that. So, but the city has chosen to align their dollars with other things that, again, have a direct effect on whether or not you're healthy to actually participate in those things.
So what you're saying, Janine, is soccer is entertainment.
Soccer's
Metro
entertainment
General is necessary.
necessary.
Okay, very
Absolutely.
good.
Thank you.
You know, so let me soapbox. Let me ask you very quickly before, you know, as we close this segment out, Dr. Webb, really lay it out for us, because Metro General, again, as you stated, as we've discussed, treats those that other hospitals don't on as large of a scale. We're talking about the and underinsured. And specifically, we're talking about college students, right? We're talking about those entrepreneurs, right? Who, you know, very, very much contributing to society, but, you know, they're owning their own business. Maybe all the funds aren't there. You know, we're looking at a very, a niche population, a vulnerable population. What would happen if there is a decision come, you know, July 1st that says, Metro General, you know what, we're done, no more inpatient care? How is Nashville impacted by a decision like that? How would they be?
Let me give you a couple of quick stats right now.
Okay.
Tennessee is ranked number 46 of 50 states in worst health outcomes. Nashville is ranked number 42 among 50 metropolitan cities for worst health outcomes. What that decision would do would be to fragment the care that is currently going to Nashville General and is being cared for in a coordinated way. The access is very coordinated and transitional care from the time the patient enters the hospital to the time they move into our outpatient setting, which is our patient-centered medical home. So to eliminate that would be to fragment that care and redistribute those patients all over the city seeking care in multiple hospitals, and there is no coordination. And I'll tell you, if that was a solution that was workable and that was feasible, you would see other cities doing it. We belong to an association called America's Essential Hospitals. There are roughly 327 hospitals that are part of that in cities across the country. Now, just to see that there are that many essential hospitals across the country means that there's a reason for that. Chattanooga, Memphis, Knoxville, and Nashville are the safety net hospitals in Tennessee. And to eliminate one in the most vibrant, perhaps,
In the
city,
IT city.
The
it city, the capital of healthcare of the nation, more healthcare
Right.
here than anywhere else in the country. And our outcomes don't reflect that. And so, to your point, to eliminate that service would exacerbate the poor care and the poor outcomes that we currently see, and our rating nationally as a city would certainly likely be negatively impacted if we were to further fracture the outcomes, because these individuals are factored into that data.
Right.
Because and so they're that distribution of social determinants of health that will contribute to some of the worst health outcomes because they're dealing with those social determinants. And so they require special care.
So what do you say to, there were stories out to say that you had, let's say, 150 beds, only 50 of them were being utilized.
Yeah.
So if we're now talking about the fact that this is the essential hospital for those that are indigent, does it matter really that only 50 beds were being utilized? If more beds were utilized, does that mean more money from the city? So how is that really, what's the truth of that, of that situation?
150 beds is what the hospital is licensed for. That means the state of Tennessee licensed the hospital for that number of beds. The operational beds are the ones that we will staff at any point during the course of the year based on the volume of patients. We staff according to patient. There are staffing ratios that regulatory systems require. So if we have 40 patients, then we're going to staff for 40 patients. That becomes very efficient. So the number of patients that come into that hospital should not be a proxy of whether or not care is needed for that population, or you can just shovel it off someplace else. And we see over 30,000 patients in our emergency department. We see close to 40,000 patients in our outpatient clinics. We see over 230,000 patients in tests and exams and diagnostics, and another close to 20,000 patients in our inpatient days at the hospital. So there's a lot of volume around the hospital that's not all showing up in our census, because quite frankly, we have a very efficient throughput process that does not allow our patients to stay or languish in the hospital. We transition them fairly quickly, because in actuality, the worst place for you to be when you're getting better is to be in a hospital. You need to move on.
Well, Dr. Webb, thank you so much for joining us. You know, and like we said, we wanted to, this has been a very big discussion. community-wide, and we're glad so much that you joined us to really kind of lay everything out and kind of, clear things up. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's been my pleasure.
All right, everyone, coming up after the break, we have much more. The ladies are going to join me again. We're going to go into soapbox and round robin and all of that good jazz. So everyone, stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, thank you so much for joining us. We are back with a favorite here. We have two favorites, Round Robin and Soapbox. And we're about to get into all of that in this break. So Soapbox, as you can see, these ladies up here do not hold their tongue, do not hold their breath for nothing. They're very opinionated. So we created an area where they can get on their
Our safe space.
Yes. Uninterrupted,
Unfiltered.
I'm going to need a little bit longer, though.
30 seconds.
goodness.
They get on their soapbox about whatever has had them bothered, upset, emotional, whatever it is. So we're going to kick it off. Are we ready for our soapbox?
Yes,
30
we're ready.
seconds. The buzzer's going to sound when your
45
time
seconds.
is up. See, that's always a troublemaker. All right, so Lainey, we're going to start with you on your soapbox. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, Phil, our director in there, you got the timer going. Are we ready? All right, he said we're ready. All right, Lainey, and go.
So my soapbox today is, on Monday, the official white portraits of the president and first lady Obamas were revealed. And one of my things is, art is very subjective. Whether you like it, whether you hate it, whether you don't understand it, whether it makes you feel uncomfortable, that is what art is supposed to do. It is supposed to elicit emotions. There's so many people who feel uncomfortable about looking at art and not understanding it, and they feel like it's an elitist thing. Art is supposed to help you become a critical thinker. So whatever your opinion...
Time is up.
Wow.
That was whatever your opinion is. Love it.
How
You
I felt last week. I felt like that last week.
No, it's not your soapbox turn. It is Scotty's time. Scotty, are you ready?
This is ready. This is a message to my dear friend, Senator Bob Corker. Listen, you said a couple months ago that you were not going to get into the race, that you were going to not run for re-election. Other people have changed their lives. Families have moved in. Another candidate got in. And now, all of a sudden, 5 days ago, the rumor started that you were going to get back in. Listen, our party's already going to be going through a lot of turmoil in the 2018 election cycle. You did not help it by now this rumor saying that you're going to be getting back in this race with Stephen Fincher getting out. Marshall Blackburn, Stephen Fincher, we were ready for that race. It's not happening. Now we're going to be going up against the two of you shredding each other.
All right. All right. Doing pretty good, ladies.
Because you know Bryson will beat him.
She's still in time. Exactly. All right. Go Corker. Go Corker.
That's my point. Right there is my point.
It is Melissa's turn. She is up next for a soapbox. When you're ready, we're ready.
Okay, let's talk about civility. You know, we're all passionate about certain problems and issues, and we all agree that there's problems out there. We may not agree about the solutions, but look, we're America. We're about civil discourse, and it's just all the hate and all the extremism that's going on. You know, I have a good friend of mine who's a Democrat, and we just have a healthy conversation, and it's amazing to hear how many things we agree about. We may not agree, we agree about the problems, but we don't agree about the solutions. But it has to be a win-win for both sides, and that is my soapbox. I hope we can get back to civility.
Boom.
All right,
I like what you
Melissa.
said. That was good. All right,
Yes.
Janine, pulling up the rear. Your
so
turn.
my soapbox is not quite as political, with the exception that I feel like Metro government needs to do a better job. We have too many potholes in this city. I actually lost a tire last weekend because of a pothole. I called the police. They actually came to my home, did not do a report, but gave me a number. I went online, and there are 5 different places that you can go to fill out a claim, and I have yet been able to be reimbursed for my pothole. So that's my soapbox moment, is I want my $100 and something back.
Boom.
She wins. I think she wins. I'm sorry.
She gave the grandma look too.
That affects us all.
All right, that's our soapbox.
take care
Now
of
we're about to get into another fan favorite here, and Lainey got on me last week, so I had to make sure I brought it back.
Yes.
We're getting into round robin. That is where I throw out topics, and we got to go around the table, one by one. Each lady gives me their first thought, and very quickly. As a reminder, this is not soapbox, so we're not going into a long, we're not doing
35
monologue,
seconds.
we're not doing back and forth. Just very quickly, your thought about it. Yes, no, whatever. All right, are we ready? Everyone got their thoughts together? Yes. We've got a little heavy and a little light in here. Let's start off a little heavy. All right. Governor Rick Scott is calling for the FBI director, Christopher Wade, to step down after he says the agency failed to respond to a tip about the Florida shooter, the high school shooting we had this week, Nicholas Cruz. Now, the FBI has recognized that they did fail to follow up on that tip. Should he step down? Should the FBI director step down? Janine, we'll start with you. Yes,
Yes.
No.
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 Okay. All right. Now to another topic we have talked about ad nauseum, Russia meddling. All right. So now President Obama is being blamed. They're saying that his lack of response to the hack, remember when Sony was hacked? They're saying that his lack of response basically opened the door for Russia to come in and tamper with the 2016 elections. Who deserves the blame in that? Again, not soapbox. Give me a name. Give me a name or a group. Russia?
The FBI.
Vladimir Trump.
Vladimir Trump. Okay, that's a new one. All right.
I think the Justice Center needs to be justice.
Okay. All right. So I am more than an athlete. That is the statement from LeBron James. All right, NBA player. He put it up on his. Oh, geez. Okay, remember it's round robin.
I already know.
So he put it up on his, I believe his Twitter
On his
account.
Twitter, mhm.
This came after he and Kevin Durant, where they had a video. They were talking about President Trump, saying that he doesn't give an F about anyone in his video. So Fox News correspondent here, Laura Ingraham, spoke out and criticized them for what they said. Was she racist for saying that? Some people are calling her racist. Was she racist? And should the men take her up on her offer to come on the show? Is she racist?
Can I
Should
answer?
they go on the show? Sure. In round robin form, not soapbox form.
Okay, it's not round robin or soapbox, but is she racist? Absolutely.
This is round robin.
I know, this is round soapbox. So, first of all, do not let anybody put a period where you put a comma about who you are and what you're going to do. So that's number one. Is she racist? Absolutely. Everybody on Fox is racist, whatever. And what was the last question?
Should they take her up on her offer?
No,
to
do
come on
not
the
give
show?
her the ratings, please. Let her
Oh,
go,
let me also
go
add
by the
in
wayside.
there that her response, her criticism of them, she said, just shut up and dribble, which is why LeBron James says, I am more than an athlete. Okay, who wants to take it up next?
What was
In
the
round
que-
robin form.
Ooh, what was the question?
No,
I forgot.
she
Wow.
racist.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
Laura Ingraham is not racist. And yes, I think, you know what? Don't be afraid of going into a fight. Ratings are
not
not
about being
let's
afraid.
actually put skills to skills. Let's finally have a conversation instead of continuing these arrows at each other and going our separate ways back to our bubbles.
So I would say on the racist part, I don't know on that. I'm gonna just be real. I don't want to base that just on that one comment. However, I do think they should come on, if nothing else, to basically give her a piece of their mind. And to,
Let me also say
make
to
a
the audience
statement.
again, this is not how round robin is supposed to go. It's supposed to be very quickly.
Timer.
Melissa, save us here.
Okay, no, and yes, they ought to have the opportunity to go and have a civil conversation. It goes back to my civility soapbox.
All right. Another one here. We have Kim Kardashian clones going around. This is a move by Kanye West here for his Yeezy line.
Oh,
you know,
God.
to do a little promotion there. You can look like Kim K.
For
that's
what?
That's the drop. for
She
this
doesn't even look
woman.
like Kim K.
Which one? Which version?
Is it enough to get you to entice you to buy from the Yeezy line?
No.
Okay, no.
No, that's quick.
No.
No. Oh, okay, last one, as we brought it up here, Black Panther. The movie is out. Lainey's already folded her arms. I'm trying to limit this to where we can do a little round robin. Is it all that it's hyped up to be? I'll just put it out there like that.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know any movies above the PG grade at this point in my life. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. The hype
right.
around the movie? Absolutely.
All right.
I'd be intrigued to see it because I'm all about those type of movies, and I think it'd be, and it's an educational thing.
And it's everybody who's seen it, it's a woman empowerment movie.
And we're all about that. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Pumps and Politics. This is not where we want our engagement with you to end. You can always feel free to stop by our website. There we are, pumpsandpolitics.com. Now, that's our website. You can watch all of our shows on demand. You can also visit us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are Pumps and Politics. Be sure to hang out with us, respond to some of our posts, engage with us, and as always, join us back here for more of Pumps and Politics. Everyone have a great rest of your week.